Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If everyone can take their seats. Thank you so much for joining us for the March 2019 Sea Pines Community Coffee. My name is Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones. I am the CSA Director of Communications. If you're attending in person, just be aware of the fire exits. The restrooms are to the back. We do have coffee and donuts out as well. Welcome to those who are attending via webinar. We had 35 folks sign up for webinar, and they're joining as we speak from all over, wherever they may be located. Our agenda today: you'll hear from myself, David Henderson, Russell Fredericks, Toby McSwain, and Brett Martin, and then we will take a short 5-minute meeting break, and then we will re-adjourn for question and answers. As a reminder, we are filming via our webinar process for this meeting. So when we do come to the question and answer portion of the meeting, please be reminded that we do ask that you use the microphones. If you don't use the microphones, nobody on the video that we're filming or on the webinar will hear anything that you're saying. So that's a really important part of the logistics for the meeting. We also ask that you introduce yourself so fellow property owners can know who you are. That includes the folks on the webinar as well. Digital newsletter. So my first agenda item is to cover our digital newsletter. In the past, we've not only done a digital newsletter copy, but we've also mailed it. That's a change for us this year. In 2019, we'll be exclusively moving to a digital platform for the Sea Pines community newsletter. You may ask why. So I was asked towards the end of the year to reduce some of my spending budget in the communications department. That's a big deal for us in terms of how much we communicate with you. We want to be able to get as much information out to you as possible, but printing of this actual newsletter is quite expensive. So we're moving to a digital platform. We're going to try that out and see what that see how that works for you guys. We do that twice a year. It'll be in spring and fall, so you'll be seeing that come out right before the Heritage in April. So we're excited about that opportunity. It will be distributed via email on our website as well as on our Facebook page, and in also our mass emails through Constant Contact. Request to update your information. So speaking of a digital platform for newsletter, if you do not receive emails from CSA, please let us know. We'd be happy to update your property owner contact information. That not only includes your email address, but it also includes your phone number, your cell phone number, your home number, and then even more importantly, your mailing address. We do mail you things on occasion. So for example, your ballots for the elections, your proxy that's coming up in March for the April annual meetings. So it's really important that we have this information updated. You can get to us in a couple different ways. You can email us. info@csaseapines.com is my email address. It comes straight to me, and I'll make sure it gets taken care of for you to get that information updated. You can call us directly. That's our office number, 671-1343, or you can stop by the office, 179 Greenwood Drive. We're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Community programming and events. If you came to the coffee last month, you would have had a chance to hear from David Henderson, who introduced our new events and activities coordinator, Heather Buttdorf. Heather, I don't see you in here, but there she is. She's right up there. She just gave us a wave. Heather is our new events and activities coordinator. So if you have recommendations for programming or events that you'd like to see here at the community center, we ask that you email her directly. That's her email address right here, spcommunitycenter@csaseapines.com. We have lots of exciting information coming out for new events that we have planned. And one of those events is the Orthopedic Health Seminar. I'll cover that in my next slide. But the opportunity is there to reach out to Heather to really try to see what you guys are interested in having at the community center. So as I mentioned, some upcoming events. The Hilton Head Wine and Food Festival will be happening at various locations within the community. March 11th through the 17th. You can visit hiltonheadwineandfood.com for more information. Like I mentioned, the Orthopedic Health Seminar is going to be happening here on March 13th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll hear from some orthopedic surgeons with Optum Orthopedics who will educate attendees on orthopedic health, injury prevention, and some forms of treatment. The seminar is open to Sea Pines property owners, and we have 124 seats available for the meeting here. Next up, the Hilton Head Island St. Patrick's Day event, always a fun time on March 17th at 3 p.m. A quick parking reminder. So we do want to remind everybody, owners, guests, if you have relatives or friends coming to visit, if you plan to attend the parade, please don't park on the roadside in Sea Pines. We ask that you would, if you're attending the event, go to lot 1, which is right inside the Greenwood gate, to be able to park, and then you can walk to the parade locations. For more information on the parade, visit www.hiltonheadireland.org for more information. Again, we have the ASPO board meeting on the 21st of March at 9 a.m. and the CSA board meeting on March 26th at 3 p.m. Some events in April. Our coffee is on the 3rd at 9 a.m. in this room. RBC Heritage, I know we're all eagerly awaiting that event, April 15th to the 21st. Details at rbcheritage.com. Just a quick reminder, for logistic reasons, the Sea Pines Community Center is closed during the time of the Heritage from the 13th to the 22nd. This is actually a command post for a lot of our security, so this location is closed to the public during that time frame. Our annual ASPO and CSA board meeting is going to be on April 29th from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock over at the Country Club. Information to sign up for the webinar or register for a ticket for the event will be sent out to the community as we get a little bit closer to the event. As I mentioned last month, proxies will be sent out this month in March, so we do ask that you return your proxies so we can ensure quorum. And then if you'd like to submit a question in advance of the annual meeting, you can email us at questions@csaseapines.com. Please do so by the 22nd of April so we can make sure the question is included. We will have a question and answer session as part of the annual meeting. This is just in advance as well. And then as a reminder, no CSA and ASPO board meetings in April with the exception of the annual meeting. In May, our coffee is on the 1st at 9 a.m. We're working to set a time for our blood drive. It will be on the 3rd of May here at the Community Center parking lot. Additional event details are coming soon. May 16th is the ASPO board meeting. May 21st, a CSA board meeting. And then we do have additional community events being scheduled, a community shredding event and a wellness bus for the property owners. So looking forward to those events. All of this information from an events perspective can be found on our website at seapinesliving.com/events if you're interested in it. And we'll also make sure these get in our mass email communications as well. At this time, I'll welcome David Henderson, our Director of Special Projects and Operations. David will walk us through some beach and boardwalk updates and an update on the Forest Preserve.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning. Just had a few brief updates I wanted to provide you with. It seems like you were just here yesterday. It was actually 3 weeks ago because last month's copy was delayed a week, so it's only been a few weeks since we were here last, but I do want to provide you with a few updates on some topics I touched at last month's community copy. The moratorium on rebuilding beach boardwalks is still in effect. I had hoped to be able to announce the lifting of the moratorium today. We are not ready to do that yet. We are very, very close. We are currently working with the ARB and their guidelines. ARB is involved in that approval process. We're working with the ARB board so that they can make some changes to their guidelines to make it consistent with changes to the beach trust policy that were recently made. And we do anticipate having that process completed as potentially as this coming week. So news will be forthcoming. If you are an oceanfront owner, you are desiring to rebuild your beach boardwalk, please contact me. There is a process that we have put in place and documented that we can make available to you. We are putting the final touches on that, but there are steps that you can take now if you are interested in moving sooner than later, and I can assist you with that process. It is a highly regulated environment, the dunes and the ocean, and there are multiple entities involved that approvals have got to be obtained from. So if you are interested in rebuilding, please contact me and I can get you started in that process. Talked about Tower Beach Boardwalks 13 and 14, and we are currently in process of raising and extending the ends of those boardwalks. I wanted to show you a picture. This is of Boardwalk 13, which is the main boardwalk at Tower Beach. And what we were trying to do is to make changes to the boardwalks to get them so the boardwalks were not compromising the integrity of the dune system. So post-storm activities, renourishment, fencing, vegetation, natural sand migration, it's always changing out there, but all of the rate have changed the last couple of years. Post-storms has been especially high, and we are making adjustments to the Tower Beach boardwalks to reflect those changes. What you're seeing here is the demolition is in process of Boardwalk 13. And it's hard to see on the screen, but these stringers or this infrastructure that the boards, the decking that you walk on, that they are attached to. In this photo, you can see that they are actually in the dune, And so the next photo will show what we've done is to raise those to the prescribed height. And then of course the decking has been attached. Boardwalk 13 is in process and should be completed by the end of this week. We will then open it up. We'll then close Boardwalk 14, which is currently open, and go through the same process to get it back to where it needs to be so that that boardwalk, which is intended to provide access but also to protect the dune, is not compromised in the dune. Party in the Pines, I mentioned it last coffee. It is coming up. Tickets are going to go on sale tomorrow. If you're interested in paying with cash or check, tickets are $40 each. There also is a reserved table option available. If you're interested in paying with cash or check, you can do that at CSA. If you'd like to use your credit card, you can go to cpinesforestpreserve.org, and a convenience fee does apply if you opt to use a credit card online. I'd mentioned last coffee that the Salty Dog will be providing the food. If any of you were at the fall bonfire event, they were there and they just did an incredible job, and I have no doubt that they will do an incredible job as well. So I did want to briefly go over the menu with you and just let you know what value you would get if you're able to attend and help raise some money for our natural treasure, the Forest Preserve. So this is their menu. They're going to have a station concept, several stations, so there won't be one buffet line. There will be stations set up. They'll have an appetizer station in which they'll have smoked fish dip and palmetto dip and appetizers. They will have a low country boil station. They will have a grill station that will include bison burgers and grilled salmon fillet, grilled chicken, and they'll have a barbecue station that'll have a pulled pork and ribs as well. So they do an excellent job. Hope you would check your calendar, and if you're available, you will consider attending and supporting the Forest Preserve. The last item I had on my agenda is related to Tower Beach, and the update is that nothing has happened in 3 weeks. So because some of you have been affected with your cell coverage, I did want to let you know that. This is a South Island Public Service District project. The painting of the tower at Tower Beach has been completed, and it has been completed for about a month now. South Island Public Service District is very interested in getting this project completed. They have been actively working with their contractors to get work started. The other tower, which is at Lighthouse and Plantation, the repainting of that tower is still underway. At this point, I don't know if the providers are waiting for that tower to be finished before they bring in their contractors to move the antennas back, but I'm trying to get an answer on that. But I did want to let you know that there has not been any activity at Tower Beach since we spoke about it last. One of the challenges is that there are 4 providers at Tower Beach, and there are 3 at Lighthouse and Plantation on that tower, and each provider uses its own subcontractor to move its antennas from the temporary tower, which this is at Tower Beach. You can see the temporary tower back to the water tower. So it is a bit of a process, but wanted to let you know that South Island Public Service District is actively working to try to get this project completed, and for those that have been affected with your cell coverage, to get that coverage restored. So I appreciate your attention. That's all I had. And at this point, I'll welcome Russell.
Good morning. How's everyone? David, did you pick out the color for the water tower, by the way? ARB? JR wanted it beige instead of blue, right? I bet. Right. Okay, just a couple quick updates from myself and Greenwood Drive project. We're continuing to spread mulch out there in our new landscaping. You can see us on the left dumping off the mulch. That is not the reason your Amazon Prime delivery was delayed, though. Okay, call Toby about that. But we are making good progress. We're almost done. Should be done in the next day or so. We have some finishing touches in the trolley lot entrance to complete, as well as some final irrigation and other matters. And also at lot 2, where we had discussion about the water in the ditch, we're doing some additional landscaping there in the coming days, where hopefully it will dry up some and the rain will stop. But awful lot of rain out there and the ground's fairly saturated at the moment. Deer Island Bridge. This project moved a lot quicker than I anticipated. We are complete with all the repairs on time, which is great. And our contractor did a great job out there. We just finished up with replacing the bridge decking last week. I believe everyone back there in the Deer Island community is very happy. We have some minor details to finish on that at the approach ramp with some asphalt work. Other than that, we're cleared out and all the load in could start to take place for the Heritage. So again, happy to complete this project now. The key here with Deer Island Bridge is these repairs will last us another 10 years. So we really have to budget to replace this bridge 10 years from now. Our estimate was about $1.6 million to do that. So I know we'll be talking more about the referendum and some of the funding needs. Then these are needs that our community has moving forward. So again, these repairs will get us 10 years out, but important to note future spending is needed. Lawton Canal Timber Bridge. This project is, we just finished this last week. We have a little bit of staining left to do on the bridge deck, but you can see the difference between the old bridge and the new bridge. We eliminated that arch to have a flat transition and leisure trail bridge across the canal. A very, very successful project, and I think the new look is outstanding. There's actually a gentleman that enjoys handstanding on the bridge. I don't know if anyone's seen him, but he actually handstands and walks on his hands from one side to the other. He's out there every morning. So if you see him, say hello. Concrete beach walks, we're still working on these. We have a bunch to go. We've made some repairs 15 and 16. We also have some repairs at 17 and so forth. One thing I do ask, and I've asked all our contractors to do this, is now that we've made these repairs, to really try and keep the vehicles off the beach walks. I know that landscapers occasionally drive down there and so forth, but any sort of help in that regard would be appreciated. As these walkways, as we know, are just simply on sand. So any sort of heavy vehicles are not kind to the concrete beach walks. We mentioned this in the last coffee, but Lighthouse Road resurfacing, repaving is scheduled for this fall from Harbortown to Plantation Drive intersection. As part of the project, we'll be looking to improve drainage, replacing curbing, looking at the infrastructure needs, and also realigning some of the crosswalks along the road to further improve safety. So exciting project, again, looking towards the fall. So other projects, and I mentioned these the last time, some leisure trail projects that we're working on. Plantation Drive leisure trail from Greenwood to Lighthouse Road will be resurfaced. We're looking at timing right now as possibly as soon as May. Other roads that are in the queue, Audubon Pond Road and Spotted Sandpiper. We recognize there's a lot of paving to do, especially on these T streets like Spotted Sandpiper, and something that we do have to look at closer on our reserve study and funding the repaving of some of these other tertiary streets. We're also working on cutting back up perennials throughout the property and getting ready for sprucing things up for spring here. We're still working on pine straw and mulch applications. You've probably seen our contractor down on Plantation Drive. We're almost done with that. And the infamous flower change out will be taking place the week of March 11th. And it's kind of a little sad in a sense. Our flowers are looking outstanding with this weather. They're peaking right now as we speak, but we do have to get the geraniums in for the Heritage Tournament, and that will be our next flower change out. So come by and get the where we're moving. They'll be down towards the maintenance building, and you're welcome to stop by and load up your trunk or whatever you might be loading up. Last year we had a lot of folks come down their bike and load up their baskets and drive off, so that was kind of interesting. Other projects, and I mentioned this in the last coffee, the Sea Marsh Bridge, which is out on the CSA open space near the Plantation Club. We're targeting right now June, which will be a good timing for the golf course and won't cause too many interruptions. You've probably seen our contractor out there starting on our vine eradication program, removing vines out of trees. Our community is tangled in these vines. So we have years and years and years of work ahead of us to complete that work, but we're getting started. David mentioned beach boardwalk repairs, and I mentioned this in the last coffee. We have a bunch to do. Boardwalks that were washed away in Hurricane Matthew and damaged, again, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 29, 31, 32, 33, and 40. One of the things that we're actually seeing now, and I was out there yesterday at boardwalks 11 and 12, there's substantial beach erosion taking place on that end of Sea Pines. We've probably lost a good 4+ feet of sand in that area in that stretch. So we're actually meeting with the town this afternoon to discuss next steps. So we're going to have to probably realign those boardwalks that we put in last year. And then we also have the railing at Baynard Park that I mentioned in the last coffee. We'll be replacing that on both sides of the road, as that railing is another asset that's in dire need of repair. There's many other pedestrian railings around Sea Pines that we have to fix, and that is one of them. That it's a pretty popular fishing location and crabbing location. If you haven't been down there to try that, it's always see folks there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Toby McSwain. He was glad to see him back. He almost got caught up in an avalanche, I believe, right there out there in Colorado, Toby. So welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. Happy Ash Wednesday to all my Catholic parishioners out in the crowd. I see some of you made it to church this morning, so that's good. Have to bear with me. I'm kind of under the weather. I was riding a snowboard in Vail last week, and I think I brought something back with me. Just a couple updates, and then we'll jump into some tournament matters. Amazon, Friday, February 22nd, we found out that Amazon started their delivery service when the trucks pulled up to our gate, and I kind of knew something was going on when other plantation directors of security were calling me. I was like, who the hell's Amazon? What are they doing at the gate? They have started the delivery service, and there's several of them. We were not aware of this. We knew that they were operating in other areas, but we didn't know that they were operating in our region just yet. But they are. They've got a base out of Savannah, and it looks like they're going to be going to their own transportation matters, deliver it in their own packages. They're not using UPS anymore. They're kind of getting in the transportation business. So what we've done in the meantime, they are allowed free access. So you shouldn't have any problem receiving an Amazon package moving forward. This matter is going to the CSA board. Currently in the gate entry policy, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and the Postal Service have free access to Sea Pines because has been primarily the major carriers. This one is going to be voted on by the CSA board, but in the meantime, we're just clearing them through. Beach shuttle. The beach shuttle matters have been handled, resolved, and we have a plan for the season. It's going to start March 23rd, and it's going to run through the end of September, Labor Day. It's going to run from 9 a.m. in the morning to 5 in the evening. It is available to all the Sea Pines property owners. So it's going to be a really busy beach day if an owner can't park in front of the beach club or the overflow lot at Plantation Golf Club. But it is available to you if by chance those lots are full. It's also available to your guests. So if you call a pass in to your friend at Long Cove and they're wanting to go to the beach, they can use this shuttle service as well. Short-term rental guests obviously will be have access to this as well. Our long-term renters that live in the community, as well as their guests, also have access to this shuttle service. There will be an attendant there. I won't really go over the locations, but you really got to pull up seapinestrolley.com and look at the schedule. There's 4 routes. We have a red, a blue, a green, and this beach shuttle is the yellow service. So if you click on it, it's going to show you in real time exactly where the shuttle is at any time and how long it is to your stop. We will start out, and there's the dates. We will start out in lot 2, which is up at the trolley lot, up near the main gate. During the week of the tournament, we move to lot 6, which is across from Lawton Stables. After the week of the tournament, it goes back to lot 2. To there around April 22nd, around May 12th, we'll move it to lot 8, which is down by Fraser Circle. So there is a little bouncing back and forth of where the trolley is going to run from, but that's the primary locations. We'll be a tenant in a lot to assist you. I would like to touch on you will be allowed to bring beach chairs, sand toys, a tote bag, and a cooler. The cooler is limited to a 48 quart. So if you have your deep sea fishing cooler that's 72 quarts, you can't put that on the trolley. We don't have room for it. A beach buggy, strollers, they have to fold up. The buggy and the strollers have to fold up. You can bring a umbrella, single pole, boogie and skim boards no longer than 4 feet, and you can bring a service animal onto the trolley. Your pet, your cat, your squirrel, those have to stay at home. You cannot bring your tents or shade enclosures. No surfboards, no coolers larger than 20 by 24, and the trolley driver has the discretion to not allow any item that is, your fishing poles have to collapse, all that kind of stuff. So we've got limited space. We're sending the trolley out next week to be kind of retrofit with a basket on the back. We're removing 2 seats inside the trolley to create kind of a storage bin inside the trolley. So it's going to limit the number of seat capacity inside, because right now our trolleys only hold 24 people. So we are removing 2 seats just to create an area, because when families want to go to the beach, and you especially have kids, you bring a lot of stuff to the beach with you. So that the program will be underway starting in March. And if you have any questions, please give us a call at the office. And one thing I would like to make mention, kids under 10, they can't ride the trolley, not the beach trolley, but not the regular trolley service at all. So if you have, visiting grandkids, they have to be 10 years or older in order to ride the trolley by themselves. We've had kids ride around on the trolleys that they didn't know where to get off. So we can't be the babysitter for today where they ride the trolley all day. So they've got to be 10 years or older. You can't bring an open container, not a water bottle. I'm speaking of an alcoholic drink or a beer. You can't bring those on the trolley. And I say this, proper attire. We do like to see all the special parts all covered up. I'm surprised we have to put that on there, but we do need to put that on there. Okay, in the regular trolley route, everything will run as normal. It will start, I believe it's April 1st. Our regular trolley routes will be the red, the blue, and the green. Not a lot of changes from last year. All the stops that we stopped at last year. However, we are adding an additional stop this year, which we're going to call it the Heritage Pad. If you go down Lighthouse before you turn left onto Plantation, there is a pad that was put in, I believe 2 years ago. We use it during the week of the tournament. We're going to add it as a trolley stop this year to capture all those guests that are staying down Plantation. Instead of bringing them to Sea Pine Center, well, they have to walk back in that direction. We're gonna pull off and use the trolley pad there. So a sign will be going in to designate that is an official trolley stop. But it'll run same hours, same locations, not a whole lot of changes. I don't roughly have the number with me. We did exceed the ridership from the previous year. the trolley's being used. Starting out, it is light, but during our really busy times, I mean, it's full. The new trolleys are on order. I wish I had a better idea of when they're actually going to be here. We have 3 on order. The last email is that we hope to have them to you by your tournament. So that means we would get basically completely red trolleys. If we have to put them in the service, you're not going to be able to track them on the app. That's a completely different program where we have to bring in a vendor to install that equipment on the trolley. So we're hoping we get them ahead of time so we can put the lettering on them, put the synchromatics in them so you could pull up the app and actually see where the trolley is and how long it takes to get to your stop. So they're telling us that they're working on them. So hopefully we'll have them in time. Okay, RBC Heritage. Feeling this morning's cold temperatures, it doesn't really feel like Heritage time right now, but it is here. There's a few changes from next year. The field seems to really be shaping up. The defending champion, Satoshi Kodera, is returning. And if you would keep an eye, you'll be seeing the tournament release all the players that are coming in. I know last week Steve went down to the Honda, talked to players who haven't been here in a while. So I think you're going to see some players that haven't been here in the past attending the tournament this year. I'm gonna go through a lot, and hopefully, if I miss something at the Q&A, if you just remind me, and I'll see if I can cover it. Will call is in the same location it has been in the past. It's in the parking lot of Harbortown Golf Links. Same trailer, same location it's been in the past. So if you have guests that have tickets at Will Call, there's not a Will Call at Honeyhorn or nowhere else in Hilton Head. Will Call is in the parking lot. You cannot drive to that location to pick your tickets up. So if you have tickets in Will Call, you got to take the spectator transportation from Honeyhorn to get down to Will Call. You don't need a ticket to get up. You can walk right up to the front of it and collect whatever you need. You can buy a ticket at that location. But Will Call is in the same spot. Monday, there is a small pro-am that's being played on Monday. The parade and opening ceremonies. If you remember last year, we had a big plan for our 50th, and it was literally raining sideways at the opening ceremony last year. It will be held on the 18th green at 10 a.m. If you have not had the opportunity to attend an opening ceremony, you should take advantage of it. It's a great time. The champion's there. We get a ball in the water. Last year was the first year, and I think in many years, that we didn't fire the cannon not once all week. I just wanted to pull it out at the end of the last day, just to fire, just to have a boom, but we didn't. So it stayed locked up all of last year. But come out, look, the cannon has been completely redone. It's safe now. What we're told, which is more important. But parade opening ceremony, 10 a.m. You will need a ticket to get into the grandstands. It will be packed, so we will be opening up additional space for seating. Tuesday is the practice round for the tournament. Majority of all the players, it's a great day for you. If you have kids or grandkids that want to come out and get autographs, that's a great day to do that. The Coca-Cola Youth Day is also on Tuesday. There's a putting contest on the green at Harbortown. That's for kids to give away various prizes there. There's a family movie on Heritage Lawn starting at 4:30. The Heritage Lawn is the 17th green. So there'll be a movie being played out there. Wednesday is Pro-Am Day. All day, all tour players, with the exception, I believe, 6 will be playing in the Wednesday Pro-Am. And then Thursday starts tournament play. Saturday is Plaid Nation Day. So if you have your tight tartan stuff, that's the day that we want you to wear it. So it's where you plaid on Saturday. Saturday at 4 p.m. is the Boeing flyover. We've been notified that Boeing will be flying an aircraft. We don't know which one yet, but it will be at Saturday at 4 o'clock, and it makes 2 loops down the 18th fairway. And I had myself a note, but I actually put it in the wrong spot. Is anyone brand new to the community? Because last year during the Friday before the tournament, I got a call from a property owner down in the Mizamass area, and I won't tell you their name. But they were like, what is all this stuff? I'm like, what stuff are you talking about? all this stand stuff. What is all this stuff out here? I said, oh, that's for the tournament. What tournament? So let me back up. We do have a professional golf tournament, April 15th through the 21st. So apparently they rented here for multiple years, had no idea that the PGA Tour played an event here. So we do have a golf tournament. So the Boeing flyover is really nice. It's a great time. The players absolutely love it, but they fly this thing 1,500 feet off the deck, and it is just as quiet, but it's a good time. Sunday, there's an Easter sunrise service. Our tournament finishes on Easter Sunday this year. It's always great on an Easter finish. But we were going to have a sunrise service at 7:30 a.m. In the past, we've done this on the 18th green. That is being moved to Liberty Oak this year. So if you want to come out to the Easter sunrise service, normally, Carrie, it's the Christian Athlete Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Yep. We'll invite a tour player. So we've had Aaron Badley in the past, but normally they bring a tour player up that's a member of that organization, and they give the kind of a talk for the Easter sunrise service. And then it was the final round, the trophy presentation to follow. The tournament's in full swing. Ticket sales are going very good. So if you haven't bought your tickets, I suggest you do that very soon, because I would project that there probably will be a ticket cutoff at some point. They are pushing the Doc's barbecue ticket. It is $450. It's good all week. It's good for the clubhouse, and it's also all you can eat and drink on the 15th green. Going back, see something, say something. I put this up here as a reminder for myself. If you're walking around the tournament and you see something that looks odd, if there's someone that has passed out on the fairway, we want to know. Drinking is our number one issue during the tournament. Not just at this tournament, but the other 46 tournaments as well. Alcohol is the number one issue that we deal with. Anything else? You see someone with a firearm, anything that looks strange to you, you can call 911. You can call the Sea Pines dispatch. On the tournament's website, we have a number that rings inside this building. This is a command post, but your eyes and ears walking around the tournament. So if you see something, please let us know. Starting Wednesday, we have 100 law enforcement on our golf course. Some are in uniform, some are not. We're wide open. When it comes to an event like ours, we're one of 3 tournaments on the PGA Tour that has homes that line the fairways. If you go to the Players Championship in Sawgrass, there's not one house on the fairway. Everybody walks to a magnetometer. Less than 1% of our people that attend walk through our magnetometers at the clubhouse. So if you're walking around, you see someone cutting up that looks like they're getting out of hand, we would rather deal with those people sooner than later. Okay, hang tag distribution will begin March 25th. Sarah has some sheets. If you live in a restricted area, we have a sheet back here. So if you live on any and around Harbortown golf links, you're going to be required to have a hang tag. We will start that distribution March 25th at our office. The hours are listed there. They'll start at 7:30 in the morning. They'll be open the weekend prior to the tournament as well as the weekend of the tournament. Property owners, if you're not going to be here, let me back up. If you're coming to pick up, you need to bring your ID card to collect your hang tag. If you're not going to be here and you want someone to pick the hang tags up for you and you're going to let them use them, that's fine. You need to send an email to Sarah at the admin office, cpinesecurity.com. We need a letter from you before we release the hang tags to someone else. Once we hand the hang tags off to you, they will not be replaced. So they're your responsibility. So if you want to park your personal cars at your home and give your hang tags to 2 of your closest friends, you're more than welcome to do that. But if they lose them, we don't replace them. I can't replace them because I don't have any more to give you. So we only order what cars we have available to give you for your personal car. Hang tags are not for your relatives, your friends, that kind of stuff. It's for you to get to your home if you live in the footprint of Harbortown. So please help us out with that. We will send some communications out talking about the hang tags, when they're available, and when you can start picking them up. We're doing this 2 weeks in advance. I think it went really well last year because we issued roughly about 5,100 hang tags. And while I have this opportunity moving forward with our new ABDI program, we're hoping to get away from hang tag distribution. So all of you that live in and around Harbortown Golf Link, the property owner decal on your car, we're looking to change to a different color so you don't have to come to the office anymore to pick up a hang tag during tournament week. Your color would be different than the person that lives at the back gate, so we know that you live in the footprint. It's just one less worry for you to have to come pick up a hang tag and for us to issue 5,000 of them. Hoping to start that next year, but we will send some communications out on that. If you need overflow parking, if you have cars, you have guests where you have too many cars and you need a place to overflow park, you can use lots 1 and 2. You can take a tournament shuttle in. It will drop you off at Harbortown, so you can leave your vehicles there. We will have attendants parking cars. We actually have, the tournament has hired a new company that will assist in the management of parking in lot 1 and 2. And then when we overflow into lot 3 to get as many cars in these vehicles as we can, but those shuttles will run around the clock. Handicap parking is across the street at lot 4, which is across the street from the CSA administration. Same location it was last year. There's a new policy this year for oversized wheelchair. If you have a device, if you're handicapped and you have a device that is outside the norm of a regular wheelchair, you have to contact the tournament to fill out this agreement, and they will make an exception to how I think they're going to allow you to park somewhere else, because if you've got anything bigger than a standard wheelchair, it will not fit on the buses. So we have, there's a lot of new stuff out there now where some of these things look like snow tracks on the side of it, and then it elevates. I mean, they won't fit on the bus. So if you have a device or you have someone that's coming to stay with you that has these special needs, got to get in contact with the tournament, and then they will notify us, and then you can pick up whatever they issue. You'll be able to pick it up from Sarah at our office. Uber and taxis will be the same as last year. They will drop off here at Sea Pine Center. No longer will they be able to go to the bakery. It's too busy. I think last year we did 4,100, if I remember, 4,100 Uber drop-offs during the week of the tournament. We can't have that traffic in the Harbortown. So they will drop off here at the bank building, and then you can walk down Lighthouse, turn left on the plantation, and enter the golf tournament right at 1 Green. Access to Harbortown during the week of the tournament. Starting Monday morning at 5:45, the roadblocks go up. You cannot get through a roadblock unless you have the hang tag. So whatever you've got to do between now and Monday, the start of the tournament, the 15th, you got to get your hang tag. You're not going to be able to talk your way through a roadblock. So go get your hang tag. They start in the morning, and then Monday through Wednesday, we would anticipate that the roadblocks would come down around 6:30 in the evening. Thursday, Friday, it's going to be longer than that because we have every tour player with tees in the ground Thursday and Friday, so it's a busy day. It's probably going to go closer to 7 o'clock. I get this call every year. I got reservations at CQs. You're not going to drive through a roadblock because you got reservations at CQs. You got to make plans for that. So anything in and around Harbortown, you can get on a shuttle. The trolley picks up right here. It will take you down to the playground at Harbortown at Liberty Oak and drop you off. But there is no access. We're doing this we're not doing this to restrict you from the air. Well, we are. We're doing this because in the event we have an emergency, we have 26 buses coming from Honeyhorn, 13 from Coligny. There's not room for people to ride around looking for a parking spot that doesn't exist. During tournament week, the tournament has every vacant spot down there dedicated for their use. It's either caddies, tour players, or sponsors, and then the resort has what we call the general store parking lot, and it's open only to the shop owners, and it's under a hang tag. So there is no parking. There's no general spectator parking anywhere during the week of the tournament. But you do have access to 1 and 2. Your relatives, your long-term renters can all go to lot 1 and 2. Activities during the week of the tournament. Please freshen up your yard. Do whatever you're going to do the week prior to the tournament. We are entertaining the top tour players in the world here at our event. And the last thing we want is some guy with a blower Thursday morning at 10 a.m. And these guys are trying to make a living. That's not the image that we want to put forward here. I know it's 1 week, and especially for those of you who live in and around Harbortown, I know it's a tough week for you. It's painful, but it is only for 1 week. And it is. The tournament is, I mean, we're the 4th oldest tournament on the PGA Tour. There's a lot of history here. So we ask, if you got things going on, please do that. If you have something under construction, there is no construction taking place during the week of the tournament. There's no hammer swingers on the 18th green doing any maintenance. We're not letting them in. So please plan for that. Deliveries. You can't order furniture from North Carolina and have it delivered Friday of the tournament. So the tractor trailers aren't coming in. There's no cement pouring. We ask, please work with us on this. We don't want to be the disruption, because the player, I will tell you, being on the inside, the player comes in and complains about stuff, and then they don't come back. And that's not the image that we want. We have 28 hours plus of live TV coverage during hosting this, and we're doing this in our backyard. And if you're having a party, please, drinking is our number one. Underage drinking is our top. So if you live on Harbortown, and a lot of you do, and you host an event every day, and you have a bar set up in your backyard where your friends can wander in and off your property and get a drink, please have someone monitor that. Don't have your margarita machine flowing and there's no one there, because someone's going to drink it, and it's going to be the kids that we don't want. Last year, 9 kids were removed for underage drinking. They weren't guest kids. They were property owners' grandkids and local kids from Hilton Head. So please don't, if you do it, please have a bartender, have someone there checking, making sure that who's consuming is supposed to be consuming. Bike parking is still available at the tennis courts in Harbortown. So it's a great way to get down to the tournament. If you want to ride your bike down, there's plenty of space. Actually, I think we're setting records on the number of people riding bikes, and it's just an easy way, especially when the weather's nice. Ride your bike down, put it on the bike rack. Along Plantation Drive, please do not chain your bicycle to a tree along the road. Please put it in the bicycle rack. Ooh. I think I just talked about that one. All right. Tournament bag policy. This is outside of everyone drinking and having a really good time, is the unapproved things that come to the golf course. You cannot bring an unapproved bag or any type of item that we put a tag on and allows you to walk around the tournament. The trooper that stops you is not going to care that you lived here for 25 years and that you used to bring your bag here. It does not work that way anymore. It's a different environment that we're in. Please look at this. I mean, it's very, very specific. It says 6 inches by 6 inches, and it's the original state. So that's a small woman's handbag. If you can put a basketball in your purse, you can't bring it. It's 6 by 6. They're going to turn you away. If we catch you on the golf course, we're going to escort you from the golf course. That is the policy. So please help us with that. I mean, we're the community. We know that we should be the ones that setting the rules and regulations and not having to deal with this. A clear bag, it's 12 by 12. So if you want the tournament, I think Carrie is the Harbortown selling clear bags this year. Okay, so if you got a clear bag, you're more than welcome to put your clear bag in it. You cannot put your bottle of wine in the clear bag. We want you to buy our expensive wine on the golf course. So please, you can't bring alcoholic beverages on. If you have a medical kit, if you have something that is a medical need, you got an oxygen, whatever that case, that's not a problem. That gets searched, we put a tag on it, and you're more than welcome. Strollers, not a problem. Can't put the bottle of champagne in the stroller. We are searching the stroller, so please, and kids are out, that's not a problem. We put tags on those, but unapproved items, we're going to ask that they be removed from the golf course. The chairs, you can bring the chairs, but you can't bring the bag that the chair goes in. And those items are listed on the RBC Heritage website or the PGA Tour's website. Nothing has changed with that. You can bring cell phones, and I didn't mention this. You can have a cell phone on the golf course. You can utilize the cell phone in designated areas. So if you're going to make a call, or answer the phone or whatever, we ask to put on silent. You can go into the designated, have a conversation, not a problem. You can take photographs of the player. You can only take photographs of the player when he is not in the execution of a shot. So once the player addresses the ball, you got to put your camera down. You know? So the rest of the time, when he's walking down the fairway, standing at the ropes, whatever, but once they address the ball, you cannot take a photograph of the player. So we ask that you please help us with that as well. One of the biggest changes this year is Baynard Cove Road. That is going to be the CBS compound. This year, it is moved from the tennis courts at Harbortown to the road of Baynard Cove Road. So if you look, is that the pointer? Yeah. This is Plantation Drive right here. That's Baynard, the entrance to Baynard Cove Road. 15 Green is right here. Turnberry, right at the corner of Turnberry, there's going to be a barricade put in the road there, and at the last house on Baynard Cove Road. So this entire section and the shoulder of the road is going to be filled up with CBS generators, tractor trailers, everything that they bring. We redid the roadside. That whole ditch was filled in. Matting was put down. The area is going to be green screen, so there's going to be an 8-foot fence surrounding the entire compound. You cannot, starting April 10th, you will not be able to drive through that area. We've got trucks coming in on April 10th. We're going to try to drop them on the side of the road. There is a possibility that we would have a lane through there in the event of an emergency, but we don't know just yet. The CBS engineers think that they can maneuver these trucks in this area. It's going to be a busy area during the week. No vehicle traffic. You cannot ride your bicycle through there. However, right here at Turnberry, if you see that little line right there, you can enter the tournament with a ticket through that area. You can't ride your bicycle through there, but if you live in and around this location in here and you want to walk down, you can enter the tournament onto the 15th fairway there with a tournament badge. We're going to create a little walk area to the side of the compound, but there'll be security at that location around the clock. Lights, we've already talked to all the property owners that live in that area. The lights are going to be turned down. So I don't think the generators are so quiet. I don't think anyone will really hear anything, but it's going to be a lot of traffic. They bring, I believe, like 170 golf carts. I mean, it's going to be a busy area. And it's really where it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out this year, but it's been very busy with them moving booms and cameras from the parking lot at Harbortown, and now we're moving it out to an area that really traditionally has not had a whole lot of traffic. So we're hoping it's going to be a good move. Their parking is moving down to lot 31, which is on the corner of just down the road from the 15th. There's the tee boxes right here. This section down here is where the CBS crew will park. There's 71 spots there. We've used it over the years. That's really one of the biggest changes that's going to take place this year. The CBS compound, that's a big change. If you have military, if you have family that's active duty military, the tournament has really stepped up this year in previous years, the 16th fairway right in the corner of 16, there's been a skybox that's been there. It's been dedicated for our active duty military and their dependents. They've outgrown that location. They're moving that to 7 Green, as well as 7 tee box. So there's 2 locations for the active duty military. So if you've got family or grandkids that's active duty that's attending this year, please have them stop in there. It's a great time. They're doing a really big push for our military. And it's been an area that's been really pretty quiet. So there's a lot of room out there. So that's a brand new thing that's going to take place this year. That's all I have for the tournament. I do want to go into just a quick update. I would think that with the emails that's going out, and I spoke about this the last 2 coffees, the dog animal issue is continuing to be a problem. I'm not going to read the state statutes, but they're there. The very top one talks about if your dog leaves your property, it has to be restrained. The bottom one is unsanitary, and it talks about animal secretions. You cannot let your dog go to the bathroom without picking it up where it would enter into a drain. It's a violation. We're not issuing warnings. We're issuing state tickets because the matter is you you would think the information going out saying, please, pick up behind your dog, keep your dog on a leash would be enough. Apparently it's not. We're not, and what I'm dealing with right now is not guests that are coming in here, and it's not short-term rentals, it's property owners. So if you get a ticket, I guess we'll see you in court. But here, it's the law. It's not a CSA covenant, it's state law. If your neighbor doesn't want your dog in their yard, it's their right to have that. So I don't know what else to say about this matter, but we're past the warnings. We're issuing state tickets. Car break-ins. I guess I must have cut it off. Well, it's at the top. We had some car break-ins, and I use that term loosely. They just opened the door up and helped themselves. Just inside the back gate, there were 6 along South Forest Beach. They either came in off a beach access point, came in to Night Heron, basically pulling on door handles. Now, I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of people leave their doors unlocked because they don't want person to break the window to get into their car. Some people don't leave anything in their car. So, well, you know what? I've got the change in the cup holder so they can help themselves because I don't want to take it out either. So if that's your plan, then that's fine. But some of these people had some stuff stolen, and they were not locked. Every car was left unlocked, and all they were doing was pulling on door handles. I did talk to the investigator of the sheriff's office yesterday. They do have someone that they're looking at in regards to this. But the burglaries, the car break-ins are picking up. Spanish Wells area had someone actually go inside multiple homes while people were asleep. Not only do you lock your car, lock the windows to your home. The door that leads to your garage should be locked when you go to bed. So if they're gonna break in, make them break in. Don't leave the front door unlocked while you go to bed. We're out. We're providing what service that we can provide. We can't extra patrol every neighborhood all night long. So you got to really pay attention to this. It's ticking up. If you read the report from the sheriff's office, their activity is getting more and more. So that's all I have. I appreciate your time. And if I missed something during the tournament or another question, please at the Q&A, ask me. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Just one quick clarification on infant carriages. We are tagging the carriages, not the infants in them. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Real quick, just a proposed referendum update. I don't have a lot of different updates for you at this point in time. We're working steadily with the board on how we can adjust the referendum to get to 75% support for that. So that's our objective. We continue to look at our questions that were asked through the survey, information requests. We're developing that so that we can provide that back out specifically on the topics that were engaged in the survey, which were related to the needs as well as the method for the referendum and the components of the referendum. We have continued to work on a referendum format that does not include real estate transfer fees. There will be a delay to and staggering of property owner assessment increases. So won't start till next year, and it will be done over time instead of one lump sum or upfront on all of those. So those are still in what we're talking to the board about, and we're seeking agreement from all members of the board so that we can bring this out to the community, and hopefully we'll be doing that in the next month and a half. But really what we're trying to do primarily today is answer people's questions and get that into a good, concise document for people to understand and to resolve what their concerns are. Okay, with that, Amanda, are you coming back up, or are we waiting till we come back after break? Okay, if we could take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back. We're an hour in, so see you in 5 minutes.
If I can have everyone's attention, we're going to go ahead and resume the meeting. Everyone can take their seats. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and begin our question and answer portion of our meeting. For those of our property owners who are joining us via webinar, we have turned on the Ask a Question option, so we encourage you to participate through that medium. You now see on your screen, if you're joining via webinar, one of two options if you're joining via tablet, phone, desktop, or potentially an Android or iPad option. You can type a question in here. Please try to keep the questions straightforward. Statements are a little bit difficult for me to read through to be able to ask the presenter. And please identify yourself when you're asking a question. Additionally, if you're joining us in audience, a microphone will be brought to you by one of our staff members, David over here, Jean over there in the back. We do ask that you use the microphone. As I mentioned earlier, I've gone back through a couple of community coffee videos or other meetings where we have webinar, and for folks who have decided not to use a microphone, we cannot hear anything that you're saying. So we do please ask that you use the microphone so we can make sure that, that it's being recorded. Okay, so we will go ahead and get the question and answer session started. Before I forget, Sarah in the back has copies of the residential hang tag list. We did have some questions during our break of, does my home apply for the hang tag area? If we don't have enough copies, since we do have a good turnout here this morning, of course, we will be sending out this information via our mass email communications. It'll be posted on our Facebook page as well as our website, so more information coming. But as Toby mentioned, this is the area in and around the Harbortown footprint, so that kind of may ping a note if you're in that area to remind you of hang tags. So we'll go ahead and get started. Brett, if you want to come up here, we can get started. Okay. Okay, questions? Lady right here. David? Okay.
Hi, I'm Leslie Casey. I have 3 questions. What about the gate at Tower Beach? Is that never going to be fixed?
It is. It may take us a little while. It's part of the ABDI system that we've talked about for years now. That system is going in conjunction with a total enterprise system that handles all of our software, and that is tied to the member database. So to make that work effectively and efficiently, we need everybody to have a new ID card. That ID card has to have an embedded RFID in it so that they can open the gate, and we're just not there yet. Toby, do you want to talk any further about that?
The gate is actually repaired. I mean, it's fully functional. However, you have to have the device to make it operate. We're still working with the install of ABDI, but we don't want to bring you in just to give you an ID card to turn around 4 months from now or 5 months from now to bring you in to put decals on your car. I want you to come in only one time, and we give you everything that you need moving forward for hopefully the next 5 years. But the gate is repaired. We're finishing up the install of the property owner database.
Okay, how about gunshots? We heard on Sunday morning. A lot of people have heard gunshots.
Okay, I'm not
it was Sunday at 3 o'clock in the morning. There were 3 shots. Bang, bang, bang. We're in Lawton Woods. It was kind of over towards the garden. That direction. My husband was awake.
Okay.
And other people have heard it too.
Did you call security? Okay. I don't recall seeing that come across the blotter.
No, I mean, my husband was up.
I'm not aware of any gunshots.
We will next time because other people here have heard it too.
I don't recall seeing the report that deals with gunshots, but if a deer is hit and injured, the officer will, regardless of the time frame, we will dispose of the animal. We can't pick it up and move it and do that in the pit. We have to do that wherever it's located. We did have one, actually two of those that occurred last week, but I'm not exactly sure of the date that occurred. So we do have suppressed weapons that we try to use. But if someone hits a deer and it's injured to the point that it can't maneuver no more, we're not going to go to the office to get a suppressed gun. They're going to shoot it with their current fire, and it's loud. I mean, but I'm outside of our activity, I'm not aware of any gunshots.
David?
Okay, others? Sue.
You did a good job. I only have one.
Here she comes.
Sue Emke. This is for Russell. I have a question. We walk, my husband and I walk along the leisure trail that parallels Greenwood Drive. We noticed, and they may have been there longer, last week, there are like 30 holly bushes that are between Lot 1 and the leisure trail down towards the gate. They're just sitting there by themselves. They don't, screen anything. Do they have a function?
You're talking about new landscaping that was installed, or they were there prior?
Well, no, they weren't there prior. If it's new landscaping, as I say, I don't see the point. It's the whole parking lot is open, and then there's these, there are about 30 of them, and it's open on either end. They don't do anything.
I think you're talking about Lot 1 now, correct?
Lot 1.
Lot 1. So we work with a landscape architect to identify buffering of the trolley lots from Greenwood Drive to obscure some of those views that we had into the lot. So the concept is for all those evergreen shrubs to grow together.
These are close together. I mean, it's wide open. There's no other, unless, are you going to put more in?
That's it at this time. We still have potentially more buffering to do along the trolley lots. There's a lot of invasive plants that are growing between Greenwood Drive and the trolley lots.
This is between the lot and the leisure.
Yes,
trail.
correct, exactly.
And there's, I mean,
exactly.
They're a little thing. They're about this long. And I mean, there's nothing on either end.
Right. Those were, again, to obscure some of those prominent views from the roadway into the trolley lots. So you don't see all the cars in the lot. So that was the concept.
They don't obscure anything. And then another question: what was the cost of the landscaping for the Greenwood Drive redevelopment or whatever road project?
Total cost of all the landscaping. It was in the range of about $250,000 roughly.
Just to go on, there is plans to continue that in future landscaping, and it is to buffer the parking lot view. They're parking lots. I mean, so it is, and it's going to take a while for that to mature. We're not putting in fully matured plant material. Over time, we anticipate that those will close in and grow together, and then additional ones would be added. So, Becky, is that okay?
Good morning. My name is Becky Pardue, and I've lived on Beach Lagoon Road, South Beach Lagoon, for 28 years. I have two questions this morning, but it comes with some rhetoric too, as I'm really upset about the uncivility, and civil behavior of some people, one being a board member, towards other board members and CSA staff. Let me get to my place. From 2001, until the Riverstone Group purchased the Sea Pines Resort in 2005, my husband served as a Sea Pines Associates board member. In 2009, I helped to start our neighborhood POA and became the president. David and I both realized it was our responsibility to become involved in the community. Now, I'm happy to say, having watched a lot of things change, we have the most competent and effective CSA and ASPO board members and CSA staff we've ever had. and CSA board and staff have been willing to address the elephant in the room, which is the need to raise our yearly assessment by holding the dreaded referendum. After all these years, I'm asking, and this is my first question, what are my rights as a Sea Pines property owner, and what can ASPO do to help me protect those rights from a few bored, and that's B-O-R-E-D, residents who are working furiously to ruin what we have worked so hard to improve and enjoy. We should all be insulted by the nasty and uncivil attacks Dick Matthews, an ASPO board member, and his group, many of whom remain nameless, have made towards CSA board and staff members, to say nothing of the harm they are causing our community in general by spreading lies or using information out of context to try to convince enough uninformed residents to vote against the referendum, solely to get to 25% minority rule. If they are successful, they will severely impact our property values by denying what the vast majority of residential property owners want: the yearly funds needed to repair our infrastructure to bring Sea Pines back to the first-class resort community we once legitimately claimed. Second question, how much time and money does CSA have to spend to constantly correct the lies this group continues to spew in an attempt to inflame the community? Does anybody know what this group hopes to accomplish other than to make someone else, like the resort and commercial, pay what the residential property owner's part of the assessment is? Do they even bother to do the math? If the resort and commercial interest paid 3 times what they do now, it would not move the needle in our budget. Have they told you about the number of bedrooms that have been added to new rental houses in the last 10 years and the number of service trucks it takes to service these new homes? This is where the traffic is coming from, not from the resort. CSA has answered the group's demands to raise the gate fee by negotiating an agreement, which is something we have to do because of our covenants, with the commercial interest. We have covenants and they have to be addressed. And they've also addressed the main gate traffic by buying the building just outside the gate, a genius solution on many levels. No matter what CSA does, I'll let you speak. No matter what this group does, the
Becky,
group
we do need
against
to get to the
everything,
question,
I'm almost through, criticizes them. Not only is CSA staff and board spending countless hours dispelling these lies, so are many informed property owners who constantly answer their bewildered neighbors' questions as to what is true and what is not. I just have another paragraph. How did this group get started? Mainly by 2 retired attorneys looking for someone to sue. Truly, I watched it happen. Beginning with the resort's first project, the Beach Club, the goal is to take over ASPO and have access to the $500,000+ in their coffers in order to sue the resort and CSA. Over what? No one is sure. The reasons change with the wind. Thank you.
Okay. Just a moment. We have the gentleman back here.
A while back, there was a proposal to have a 3-point roundabout at the intersection of Plantation and Greenwood. Is that still a possibility or taken off the table in the past?
Sir, could I get your name just real quick?
Larry Gunn.
Yeah, Larry. We've had engineers look at that potential. We actually had a modification that was intended for that intersection in phase 2 of the Greenwood project, but the circle just simply did not fit within that parameter, and it actually caused some additional complications. So we do believe we have a better solution for that intersection, but we have to get that phase 2 of the Greenwood plan completed that will improve that intersection. I think we've showed that before, haven't we, Russell? The design on that, which would give you if you're coming out of Plantation, you would get a free lane, if you will, that you don't have to worry about people driving up Greenwood from Fraser Circle to enter into and get out of there. So we think that will be a pretty good help to that intersection, similar to what we have at Club Course in Greenwood by the gate, where you can leave Club Course and get into that free lane and then merge into traffic.
I have a webinar question.
One webinar, then we'll go to Joe.
Question from property owner Ted Levitt from the webinar. Regarding the beach shuttle, has a mechanism been established for tracking its usage? And assuming if it has been established, will CSA be tracking usage by type of passenger, such as property owner guest, weekly guest, etc.?
Yes, we have hired an attendant, actually 2 attendants to service this lot. We will track who's using it, whether it's a property owner guest, short-term renter. So we will have that data and it will be presented to the short-term rental committee and then eventually here to you guys as well. So I would think mid-May we should have some pretty good numbers of just who is using the lot.
And we'll continue to do that through the summer and report on it at the end of the year. Yes, Joe.
Yes. Joe Kernan, 48 Harthman Drive. There's an elephant in the room here. It's called conflict of interest, and it's focused on the purchase of the property known as the Gallery of Shops. Apparently, we have 4 board members, 3 of which are on the board, 2 of which are apparently founding members of the bank that financed the previous owner. Previous owner spent $1 million, $1,014,000, and secured a loan from the bank for, as I understand it, $900,000. So 3 of our board members are actually on the other board, and the president of the resort's wife is an officer of the company, the bank. This places 4 people on both sides of the transaction. This is not an appearance of a conflict of interest. This is, in fact, a conflict of interest. It's very suspicious that we would pay $1,400,000 for a property that was not developable by the previous owner because it was surrounded by Publix and they didn't cooperate in that. They could only have 6 or 7 places to park, and the town would not allow him to have 3 floors and trying to get a sufficient square footage and so forth. All of the pieces that should have been analyzed prior to even committing in this direction should have been done prior to this quick, unplanned, certainly not part of long-range planning that they always tell us about that they have here. And it's just completely ridiculous that you place us into this position and to take cash flow and buy the thing outright, probably because the bank that did support it before, or any other bank, would not extend a loan, thereby taking more money from us in advance of the hurricane season. So personally, I object to the whole thing, and I would request that the board members that are involved in the 2 boards would put out a public statement as to what their thinking was and what cautions that they followed on our behalf, because it's pretty clear that they represented the other side much more so than they did ours. Thank you.
That will be done, Joe. All those will be answered and it will be put out in public. The process went over a period of time. The permissions have been granted by Publix. The town is in the loop with the entire improvement, and any disclosure of conflict of interest would have been made by those board members prior to that, if there was one. So let's go to Dana.
Hello, I'd like to ask this question. My name is Dana Advocat, and I'm 55 Deer Run Lane. I don't think it's time for accusations. I think it's time just for transparency and clarification. And I've written a letter to Charlie Miner asking if the board, asking him to act as the head of ASPO, our homeowners association, and asking him if there was a conflict of interest that was disclosed to our CSA board prior to the purchase. Very simple. Did our board know that there was a $900,000 mortgage that was held by Coastal States Bank? And if that was the case, did the 3 board members who voted on the purchase recuse themselves from the vote? Those are just very simple questions, and I think one that everyone here who's a property owner has a right to ask. So, Charlie, if you want to do it now or in a subsequent letter, I'd appreciate an answer. Okay, nothing, no accusations, just questions.
Okay. Let's go to Michael.
I'm Michael Soul. I've been a homeowner since 1999, so I'll just continue the line. Actually, I note I was on the governance committee, and I note that in December 2017, that Brett, you promised that after the purchase was closed, that everything would be revealed in writing. And I guess then the questions from Joe and Dana would be that once we see everything in writing, clearly the whole issue of conflict, etc., would be minuted. The purchase is closed, I believe.
That's correct.
Therefore, we should now have the minutes of the whole process, which should provide
Well, the minutes of the board meeting are posted. The contract, I don't know if we've posted the contract, but it's available other than our specific policy on contracts. There was a confidentiality agreement to that contract, but the purchase price was to be disclosed. That's where it was, and we would disclose that purchase price.
So there would be no disclosure of potential conflict or that issue.
Conflict of interest is the board member's responsibility to present to the board if there exists one and to make the board aware of that conflict of interest in the law. Then the board determines whether they believe it is a conflict of interest and they remove the member from voting or ask them to recuse themselves.
And that wouldn't be minuted in the meeting?
If it had happened, it would be minuted in the meeting.
And would that be available to us to see?
The minutes of the meeting are available. They're posted on the website.
Okay, so we should be able to see if that was discussed in the minutes.
Any actions by the board are determined in the minutes. Okay. Mark?
Chairman of CSA Board. When Mr. Matthews posted a video last week, I immediately came out and made some comments on the homeowner's website page. A couple of facts. I am a member of the Coastal States Bank and have been a member of that board since, I believe, 2012, as is J.R. Richardson and as was Scott Richardson. I have no knowledge of a loan to the venture that CSA acquired that property from. You might say, well, you're a board member, you should have known. Management have loan thresholds. Loans come to a credit committee after you breach a certain threshold. They then come to the full board if that authority is breached. I do not know, did not know, nor did I assume either of my other colleagues on the Coastal States Bank, that a loan even existed on this property. There was no conflict. The board is aware and has been made aware in the past that I and the other 3 members are Coastal States Bank board members. And there was no advice to the board that any of us believed that there was a conflict. And to this day, today as I stand here, in my opinion, there's no conflict whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, this gentleman right here, David. There we go.
This sounds to me like
your name, sir. Just your name. Name and address.
My name is Jeff Herbert. I live at and own number 2 Muirfield. This sounds to me like a relatively ordinary real estate transaction, and I've handled, or my firm has handled, thousands of them. I don't understand why there would have been a confidentiality agreement in a land sales contract. What was there to keep confidential?
The
Why
purchase,
was it to be
the purchase
confidential?
price, and the seller mandated it.
Well,
The purchase price was below the asking price, and the seller did not want to disclose that they accepted a contract below the asking price. That's my understanding of why they put it in there. That was their request on the contract.
And was the only matter to be kept confidential the sales price?
I'd have to go back and look at that.
Or are there other terms in there that were to be kept confidential? The reason I'm pursuing this is a couple of ASPHO meetings ago, I spoke up about my good friend Jimmy Carter's need for an emphasis on transparency. And I haven't been participating in many of these meetings, but I am appalled at the apparent lack of transparency that seems to pervade these organizations. And I think that I would like to know, I'd like to see the contract.
We don't, by policy, disclose contracts.
And that's another, that gets to the other issue that I just raised. That is a total lack of transparency. If you, by policy, protect your contracts or agreements from the owners. We are the owners.
Your members.
We are the owners. And I'm about to be, I've been practicing law for 54 years. And I'm contemplating retiring in a few months. And I certainly don't want to, I will not engage in a lawsuit in South Carolina, particularly a state in which I'm not licensed. But I'm curious as to why somebody doesn't pursue the idea of a shareholders derivative action for everybody, so that we could get transparency and see whatever we wanted anytime. Thank you.
Sure. Let's get this gentleman back here.
Thank you. My name is Joe Ondo, and I have, first a comment is we are not a resort community. We are a residential community that has golf courses in the beach and tennis courts and bike trails. So I really reject the fact that we are not a resort community. Second, regarding the loan, at what point during the negotiations did the board members who were part of Coastal States Bank know that the loan was held by Coastal States Bank? And did they have any comment and why they weren't recused, why they didn't recuse themselves, knowing that the loan was held by the bank that they sit on the board? As I said, when did they find out that the loan was held by CSB?
I don't know that they ever found out. I didn't find out. I don't know. Didn't know it until someone, I haven't checked the records to see. The contract was with the seller. The seller had to provide clear title. As part of the transaction, they cleared the title for transfer to CSA. That's what we knew, and that's what we contracted for.
So in other words, you had no idea that CSB was involved in holding the mortgage on that property?
Not at the contract point. I don't know if there was some mention on a closing statement that could have been there, but that would have been at that time, and the determination was already done. The contract was already entered into.
Was there any discovery of who held the mortgage?
We did not do a discovery of who held the mortgage. We had a assessment and appraisal of the property value for purchase, and we had requirements of the seller to clear the title and to provide clean title to CSA.
So in other words, that the board members who found out that CSB held the mortgage found out the same time that we did?
Let me respond to that. I think I already did, but I'll respond to it again. The first time I became aware, in fact, I cannot say affirmatively that I am aware, there has been a claim by Mr. Matthews that there was a Coastal States Bank loan. I do not know whether that's valid or not. I didn't know when I supported acquiring the property as a board member, and I do not know today if that loan ever existed, period. Dana, it may well be in the records, and that may be a fact, but I'm telling you what I know, number one. Number two, I, as a member of that board of Coastal States Bank, I could go find out now, and I could potentially gather the information that Mr. Matthews has asked me to source. I'm bound, a duty of care with that borrower. I cannot disclose that information if I went to get it. I didn't know then. I didn't know anything about this loan until Mr. Matthews posted his video, I believe it was last Monday. Period.
Let's go to the lady back here in the back row, and then we'll go to Sheila.
Jane Gagan, 43 Oak Court. So I've been in finance my whole life. So you're telling me you spent $1.4 million of our money on a property that you didn't do due diligence on who owned the note? Come on, seriously?
Seriously.
You didn't know that the note was probably in default? So I don't get it. It's not prudence. You're not managing the money with due course. I just don't get it. It's a lot of money.
Let's go to Sheila. Back here.
Somebody answer the question?
Our contract was to get clear title to the property. We got clear title of the property. That's it. We'll go to Sheila.
Sheila Ferguson. A couple of things. First one is that there are 3 board members that sat on Coastal State Banks, not just Mark Griffith. So there are 2 others that have to account for them having no knowledge whatsoever of $1 million, $900,000 note owned by Coastal State Bank. So there's 3. The second is that, so I want to get this right, is that the property, BNC Holdings asked for confidentiality because they didn't want to disclose that the property sold for $250 less than asking price. Is that right?
$250,000 less than asking price. That's correct. My understanding of why they put the clause in the contract.
I don't think it was $250,000 that it sold for less than my asking price.
The asking price was, I believe, 1650 or 1695.
I don't believe that's what the MLS listing shows, Brett.
Well, I can go back and get the broker who gave us the information on it and the listing price with it.
And then last is that a closing statement typically shows that the mortgage is going to be paid.
Yes.
And a check written to pay off that note. So it must have appeared on the closing statement.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was on that because I don't have it in front of me, but whether or not the bank was named or the amount was named on the closing statement. Our attorney? He would. Well, I would have seen the closing statement, sure. But it's not pertinent to the contract. The contract is already entered into. And if there's a conflict, that still has to be disclosed. But if they're not aware of a conflict, well, let's move on because this is going nowhere. We'll be happy to make a statement for you, Joe. Who else do we have? Any others? Hold on, George. There you go.
George Paletta, 110 Club Course Drive. Brett, I understand your predicament at this meeting, but there's one simple transaction, and I just went through a multi-million-dollar transaction. It's called a title search. And no transaction is ever complete without a title search. Title search will show you what mortgages are on the property,
Yes.
any other kind of liens, etc. Was a title search done?
Yes.
And did not come up with a $900,000 mortgage?
I'm sure it's on the title search. Yes, George.
Okay.
I don't recall it in the document, nor the bank of that, nor the fact that those folks are on that board.
No, but on our side
I don't
of
recall
the
us
ledger,
going through the title search with the board members either.
on our side of the ledger, meaning the board members would have seen that there is this outstanding loan with Coastal
No.
States Bank.
No.
Absolutely.
Well,
I
they could have
just
if they had
filed
seen
now.
it, but they did not see that, George.
Okay.
Is that?
I'm not going to continue this.
No, we're going to the back, and then we're going to call. We'll stay. I'll be happy to answer your questions. You can come up and talk. Be happy to do that. And I'll be here for a while. Well, we'll see if there's any other questions from the webinar. We'll still go to the webinar for one more.
Yeah,
Go
hi,
ahead.
Donna Belmonte, property owner since 95. I just have a question.
Sure.
I'll turn this statement into a question, so maybe you can answer it. Is there any recognition on your part to the fact that all of this controversy and all of this disagreement could have been avoided if you all would have been more transparent up front and discussed this in a similar setting before it was done?
We did. Yeah, we didn't go to the terms of the contract. You're correct, but we disclosed that we were in a contract to purchase the property, what the purpose of what the property was going to be, and the information about that. Yeah, we did. Okay, let's go back.
Mike Wolf, Deer Run Lane. One quick clarifying question to you, Brett.
Sure.
At the last community coffee, I believe, there was a discussion of whether or not we had gotten an easement that we needed from Publix to make use of the Gallery of Shops property.
Well, no, we have easements.
No,
We are
okay.
requesting permission and approval of a variance to the plan that was originally submitted. But we have the easements in place.
At the last community coffee, you said that Publix had not granted us something that we needed, and we were contemplating suing Publix because, quote, we have rights.
Well, we do have rights.
Okay.
And we have
Brett,
easements.
wait a second. Let me ask my question,
Well, okay.
because it's a yes or no. Earlier today, you said we had reached an agreement with Publix. All I want to know is, when you say we've reached an agreement,
yes.
Is that lawsuit off the table and we have what we need, or are we still negotiating with Publix?
When we purchased the property, just so I can answer the question. Okay, when we purchased the property, we got permission and approval of a site plan that we believe will meet the needs of the development. We think there are additional enhancements to that development that are in the best interest of both CSA and Publix, and we would like to seek and get those. We believe we have the right to one of those as established in the easements and can get that, and hopefully they will come around without a lawsuit to get that. That's what we are in today. We're looking at trying to improve it beyond what it was already approved.
So we are still in negotiation with Publix?
Yes.
Okay. That was, I thought, an easy question. I have another couple of questions. Both you and Mark and Charlie at various times in the past have said that once the hurricane recovery process had been completed, the monies would be refunded. Any monies left over would be refunded to the residents. We've got about $1 million left in that fund, if I understand the numbers correctly.
Close, yes.
Okay. Is there a plan at any point to, in fact, refund the rest of that money back to the residents? Or is there a plan to spend the rest of that money? That's the first question.
Yes, is the answer. There is a plan.
Will we see that plan?
Well, we presented it here before. It's about repairs to the trees. I don't think the provider came and presented it, but Russell presented it. When did you present that, Russell? Before the holidays.
That leads to my next question. Russell made a great presentation, I think, again, at the last community coffee, about the clearing process within the forest preserve. how we were reducing the canopy to allow the sunlight to get down, and we'd taken out the invasive trees or the non-native species. He then said that process was funded through the hurricane recovery fees. And I'm not clear how a land clearing process, whether it's great, needed, or wonderful, 4 years after a hurricane qualifies as part of the hurricane recovery process. And I think if I were an insurance company, I would say, we're not going to replace the whole roof because you lost a couple of shingles. And it seems like that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm David Henderson. I made that presentation. It wasn't Russell, it was me. So we're a little over 2 years past Hurricane Matthew, and all of the work, as I have presented at almost every coffee since that time, almost every one, has focused as we have progressed through the entirety of the Forest Preserve from Hurricane Matthew damage. And so when we would enter the Forest Preserve, as was the entire community, was significantly impacted by Hurricane Matthew. I've shown countless photos. You can go on Google and see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees that are laying on the ground. We had thousands of trees throughout the entirety of the Forest Preserve. So as we went into these areas to remove that storm damage, we were able to do other work at the same time while we were in there. And I did make the statement that the work, or the majority of the work that's been done in there related to Matthew, was paid for from the special assessment. We are now in the process of transitioning away from storm recovery to a habitat or a land management plan, which I've begun speaking about. That is being funded as funds are available through the Forest Preserve. So we've transitioned from storm cleanup with the last work that we did that I presented on at the last coffee or the previous coffee into a land management plan going forward. I don't know if that's answered your question.
No, that does answer my question, thank you. But a follow-up to that.
Sure.
Again, in that same presentation, you talked about the work that was done in the area of the Forest Preserve immediately adjacent to Lot 1 and 2.
Yes, sir. That was the last work that we did. Or no,
again,
next to last.
That was all described as clearing the canopy, getting out the invasive, a part of land management, but not a part of hurricane recovery. You also said, and again, if I'm wrong, correct me, that portion of the Forest Preserve was owned and controlled by the resort, not by, it wasn't part of what CSA owns or part of what CSA leases on a long-term lease from the resort. So we're using, regardless of whether it was hurricane recovery funds or CSA funds, all of that work was done on private property owned by the resort. Is that correct?
The Forest Preserve is about 605 acres. The Forest Preserve Foundation owns outright about 90 acres in 3 parcels, basically where the lakes are. Of the remaining, I'm using round numbers, 500 acres that remained, the Forest Preserve Foundation, not CSA, but the Forest Preserve Foundation, has a long-term lease on about 310 of those acres. As part of that lease, the foundation is responsible for maintenance. The balance is about 170 acres of outdoor recreation zone that is owned by the resort. If you go to Beaufort County, you can see those 3 parcels that the foundation owns. The other thing that you'll see when you go to Beaufort County is that other than those 3 parcels that the foundation owns, the remaining acreage is not designated. So you do not have the ability to look at an exhibit to determine at that particular place where you're standing, whether it is land that is owned by the Forest Preserve, that is, well, you can determine that is leased by the Forest Preserve or is owned by the resort. So there isn't an ability to distinguish what is what other than those 90 acres that the foundation owns. But I did want to clarify a little bit. I wanted to be very clear that all the work that we've done in the Forest Preserve, in some areas which was a salvage harvest or logging where it was appropriate to do so, in other areas where it was not appropriate to do so or we could not get a logger available, that work was strictly mechanical. And some of the last phases that we did, including lots 1 and 2, including behind the lakes, was mechanical done. The reason why we did that work was because of Hurricane Matthew. If it was not Hurricane Matthew and the significant impact that it made on the Forest Preserve, we would not have made all these changes. But in the process of making the cleanup and the repairs, if you will, to the damage, you're having and accessing with equipment, conducting activities. It's impossible to separate, being there for the storm recovery versus being there for something that wasn't storm related. The time when we were in there to do the cleanup was the time when we would see suppressed malformed tree, invasive exotics. We don't have a lot other than some wetlands areas in the forest reserve. So all that work was done at the same time, but the reason why we were there in the first place was Hurricane Matthew.
David, two points. There was some discussion that the proceeds from the logging, the revenue from the logging, where did that go? Number one. Number two, the monies that were spent from, how much were the monies that were spent from the hurricane assessment? And how did it find its way to the foundation? I know the answers, but I want you to share the answers.
I hope I get them right. Since you know the answers. The total dollars from the Hurricane Matthew assessment that were spent in the Forest Preserve, and Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, it's approximately $300,000. Now, the total money spent was about $375,000. So the logging revenue, which was about $75,000, was used to offset what came out of the Matthew Fund. So $300,000 came out of the Matthew Fund for the Forest Preserve. As far as how it became eligible for storm dollars, there was a discussion amongst the CSA board in which they were specifically contemplating whether or not the entities, and I'm talking about Six Oaks Cemetery and the Sea Pines Forest Preserve Foundation, or the Sea Pines Forest Preserve, to be eligible for Matthew dollars. And the determination was made by the board at that time that the Forest Preserve was, as a publicly accessible asset for the community, but Six Oaks Cemetery was not. So there was board action to make that determination. That good enough, Mark? Okay.
That is administered by residents only.
Yeah, to Mark's point, we have a process when we submit for consideration for Matthew reimbursement. There's a process in place that goes through and does that. I'd also like to point out that in addition to some of the interior work that we've done in the Forest Preserve, some of those $300,000 of actual Matthew special assessment dollars that were used in some cases on the periphery. I can give you a couple specific examples. Lake Forest in Carolina Place, where they abut on the backside of the lagoons, Forest Preserve, and there were trees that impacted. Money was spent, I know, in Lake Forest to help with that cleanup. Cordillo Courts, the Forest Preserve off of Cordillo Parkway, has property that does abut Cordillo Courts, and there was a significant amount of work that was done over there. And then there was several, about 6 really nice live oaks that were planted and funded with the Matthew dollars that went in the area. If you've been to any of the previous presentations, I've shown the pictures near the substation where we had many dozens of trees that were all storm affected. And when we removed all that as part of our cleanup, it left this gaping hole. And so we did plant 6 nice live oaks there to help fill that hole. And I know that was part of the Matthew dollars as well.
And I think I know the answer, but just so you can put it out there. Has any of the work along Greenwood been paid for out of the hurricane assessment?
Are you specifically referring to lots 1 and 2 in the Forest Preserve behind the parking lots?
Along Greenwood after the resurfacing. Like I said, I think I know the answer, but let's clarify it.
The current work is not. Okay. Prior work has been. So from the storm, there was damage, and there continues to be damage along that corridor, but the landscape plan that we're talking about in conjunction is not. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we've had a couple on that. Let's do one there, then we'll go to Christopher, then we'll go to this lady here.
Okay, question from the webinar from property owner Arnold Bressler. The place where the leisure trail crosses Greenwood Drive at the entrance to the forest preserve is quite dangerous, especially during the peak season. It requires bike riders to dash across the road to avoid oncoming traffic. Can something be done to address this dangerous situation?
You want to talk to what we've done? Yes. And the signage. Signs.
No, it wasn't.
But it's going.
It's already
done. Yeah.
the sign.
Signs are up.
Yeah, we have installed additional signage there. All of our crosswalks, in conjunction when we're doing repaving in the community, if you have a major crosswalk, if you look, we've stamped them a different color. And this one, really, we wanted to, we didn't get a chance to do it because I didn't really communicate this with Russell, but what we're planning to do in the future is to raise these crosswalks a little bit higher than the standard surface. So it basically makes a bump. Not enough to spill your coffee in your car, but it would make a bump so that when you see that, you know that we want it to be a slow down period. But those crosswalks have been stamped. Now that the tree removal has been done and the landscaping, it is a much clearer sight around that corner now. But the major intersections, when road projects are being repaved and there's a crosswalk, we are implementing and paying for the stamping at the same time we're repaving the surfaces. So when you see Lighthouse Lane be redone, all of those will be stamped as well, because we really don't want to spend the money to stamp an old piece of asphalt that we're going to grind up anyway.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm Charlie Minor. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm getting to be an old guy. I'm 77 years old now. I've served on boards for dozens and dozens of years. I've got boxes full of awards for public service, along with all the other board members that serve on these boards. I have never had the experience of being accused of treachery or dishonesty or hiding things. It is amazing, too, when you look back to when I started on the board 5.5 years ago, where we have come since then in terms of public disclosure and transparency. Our board meetings are open. Things like the forest preserve, or things, I'm sorry, like the hurricane renewal, we have a very conscientious group of financial people in staff and on the board. We have an oversight committee by residents to make sure that we don't spend a nickel that we shouldn't spend. This is a board that takes real pride and real care in trying to represent the interests of our community. Okay, so Coastal States Bank had a mortgage. That's what they do. Was it a non-performing mortgage? No. Did Coastal States Bank benefit by the fact that we purchased that property? No. Is there a conflict there? No. But we can stir this stuff up and make accusations that the people on this board have ulterior motives, that we are dishonest, that we misrepresent things. We're residents like you. We're about. Okay. Thank you, Dana, for that little comment. I can explain that. So Dana asked the question, why can't you see the contract for the gate agreement? We originally had planned to disclose that. We sat down with our attorneys, and the attorneys said, that's a bad precedent. You probably don't want to do that. You could, wait, don't sneer. We can disclose the contents of the agreement, but we don't share contracts. Brett has a contract for his employment. Shall I give that to you so you can read and see how much his salary is and whether or not you agree with that? Okay. Should we see his detailed contract? I don't think so. So at any rate, okay, well, I'm not going to get into a debate with you here. What I'm saying basically is that you have a conscientious and experienced board who are doing what they believe is good for this community. There are no ulterior motives. There are no hidden agendas. And we are certainly not in the, as I have been accused of, in the pocket of the resort or the commercial interests. That stuff is ludicrous. So It may be fun to propagate that on social media. It may be fun to ask questions for which there is not a really answer, like, by the way, when did you stop beating your wife? Don't remember exactly. So that kind of stuff is damaging to this community. You've got dedicated people who are running these boards. You have an outstanding staff in Brett, Amanda, Russell, and others who take meticulous care in making sure that we follow the rules. And I personally don't mind the abuse because I don't take it personally, because I know in my heart that when I sit on that board and when I make a decision, I'm doing in my heart what I believe is right for this community. And I'm not hiding something, and I'm not cheating. And for those who would like to insinuate that we are, have at it. But you're wrong, and that's wrong, and it's not good for this community. We need to pull together as a community and look at what the problems are that we have and get those problems solved.
No, I've identified this lady over here. So.
Thank you very much. I'm Judy Bauer, and I live at 1024 Caravel Court. And I wanted to, it's interesting that I'm following this gentleman because it's interesting that I'm following this gentleman because I was standing up to thank our board members who work so hard for us and our CSA employees. I think that I'm a little horrified to hear some of the things that are being said about people who volunteer their time and energy and represent us as best we can. And as far as I understand, the contract is established, correct? The contract is
the purchase completed. Contract?
Yes.
It was agreed to by both parties.
That's correct. So we have a contract and we have a referendum. And I think that, you know, I enjoy this resort community. I appreciate the amenities that we have in this community. And I would like to see them supported. So I guess my point of view is that I'd like to learn from our mistakes if mistakes were made, but I would like to move forward. I would like to go ahead and help this community and each other and move forward and go on to other things that might be of interest and concern to this community. So thank you for letting me express my views. And thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you. I've got one more at the webinar, then we go to Christopher.
Well, yeah, but we're only taking one before we go to Christopher. Got it, understood. This question is from Felice Lamarca, and her question is, as a real estate professional, part of due diligence is checking the public record on any mortgage on property, who holds it and how much it is. So it is unfathomable that Mark Griffith did not know Coastal States Bank had a mortgage. Go online and look it up. The question is, who did due diligence on this for us before purchasing the property?
We had a title company do the title search, and it went through our counsel. Okay, so let's go to Christopher, then we'll go to Jim.
Thank you. Christopher Cliff. I'd just like to make two comments, if I may, please. David, could you tic-tac with Victoria, because your comments about the spending out of the Hurricane Matthew mitigation fund, the numbers he quoted are substantially less than the expenditure that appears on Victoria's expenditure as of 31st December 2018. I suspect that the logging revenue hasn't been booked into the fund. Just a comment.
That is the December 31st was net of that revenue.
Well then, David, could I ask a question again then? Would you please tic-tac with Victoria, because the numbers are very different.
She's right here. So.
Yeah, I know, I've seen her. But I'm not suggesting Victoria comes forward now and answers it. I'm just suggesting, could they please, and you may need to adjust your schedule.
Sure, I know, we look at that and review it on an ongoing basis.
Well, the numbers in the schedule show approximately $400,000, not $300,000.
Well, we'll go back and look through it, but yes,
Right.
the net effect of that, I think, is what David was talking to specifically, related to the income we received as well as the expenses.
Well, Brett, that's the point I'm making. The schedule that you've published may not reflect the logging revenue. Just a comment. Okay. The numbers don't agree. Yeah. Okay. Secondly, along with other people in this room, I was present at the January 2018 board meeting, which was a discussion about the Gallery of Shops contract, which at that board meeting it was explained the original closing date was January the 19th, which, as we know, didn't happen until May the whatever. Right. Okay. But at that board meeting, unfortunately, the Q&A session is committed to history because it's not recorded anywhere. And so only people present, or if they've read my note, will be aware of what went on. And the directors tried very skillfully to shut down the discussion. And an eminent lawyer who's a resident of this community asked, okay, if you're not going to disclose the purchase price, would you please disclose the other terms and conditions in the agreement? And that was declined. In other words, I'm sorry to take issue with in a public forum, but there hasn't been an open, frank discussion about the contract for the Gallery of Shops and all the parties and benefits that they derive from that agreement. The business decision is quite a separate one. What we're talking about is the lawfulness and the ethics associated with the decision to buy and the process in which you went through. That's the issue on the table, I believe. And I don't think anybody is accusing anybody of unfaithful transactions, dishonest transactions. They seem to me to have asked reasonable questions which a reasonable person could answer and actually provide documentary evidence to support the action that they took. That's all the community is asking. Nobody is accusing anybody of anything from my reading of the emails and the social media stuff.
Just so, not to go on, but the board did seek legal counsel on first their ability and their use of funds and the appropriateness of all of this. And they received a memorandum from counsel giving them that surety. So that was done as part of the process. So let's go to Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry Weiss. I live on Ridgewood Lane. I'm kind of blown away by a lot of the just speeches. I just want to ask two questions, or one question, one request. First question is, I'm really not clear on what's going to happen with that roughly $1 million extra money from the hurricane fund. And I'm not clear if we're actually using that money to pay for other areas of the forest preserve. I would appreciate if in your next communique, Brett, that you would explain to us what's happening with that, because I'm not clear even from this coffee what's happening. And I'd like to throw out a possible suggestion if that money isn't going to be refunded to us, and it sounds like it's being spent, which kind of doesn't jive right with me if it's hurricane money. But if that money is still sitting there and perhaps it's too difficult to start allocating out and refunding it, my suggestion is that maybe we have a hurricane fund so that the next storm that hits us, we have the money. We have at least $1 million right now left over from Matthew that could fund our next hurricane. So that's just a request that in your next set of communiques that we deal with that, because I'm not clear for that, and I don't want to go back and forth with you and take up more time here. I'd just like to know the answer to that and how it's going to be dealt, that extra money is going to be dealt with.
Happy to give an update on
Great.
where we are on that and what
Thank you.
the intended uses are.
Thank you. And then my other question, or really more a request to everybody here, is that my non-pooping service dog over here, we clean up after ourselves. She's a really good girl. We do, and I was telling Dave Henderson earlier, and he knows this, is we do roughly a 2 to 4 mile radius a day, because I have one of those power chairs that I think Russell or somebody was referring to earlier that elevates and does magical things. So I power around, and I'm sure some of you have seen me motoring around the community. I spot, and I've sent to Dave, when I see a very dangerous area of the boardwalk, and I think there was a question from the webinar about that. I can't remember whose question it was at this point about safety in a crossing zone, but I see really dangerous spots in the trails, including a sinkhole by the tennis courts where I've seen people fall. I've seen really bad places, partly because I'm lower down than the average standing human. But my request to everyone is to help the CSA staff get it together and fix dangerous spots. If they spot it, photograph it, send it to the CSA, send it to Dave or maybe Russell, send it to somebody, because especially as the heritage comes in, those spots are dangerous. They're dangerous for me, even though I'm lower with my very adept service dog. But they're causing trouble for bikers. They're causing trouble for other people, and it's dangerous. So I think we should all kind of help so that I'm not the only one patrolling the spaces and sending pictures in.
Just so you know, Terry, and we certainly want that word to get out to more people. A lot of what we do, from maintenance, especially emergency kinds of repairs, are generated by property owners. You know, they let us know. We're not out there walking every trail every day, and those are critical for us to be able to address, and your eyes and ears are greatly appreciated. Steve?
Good morning. Is this on, David? Oh, good morning. I'm Steve Birdwell, and I wanted to address the conflict of interest issue as well. My wife does work for Coastal States Bank. She has no involvement with the customer, the bank customer. She had no involvement with the bank loan that was outstanding, and I had no knowledge or involvement with the loan as well. So there was no conflict of interest.
Okay. Do we still have one from the webinar? Two more. Okay.
Question from the webinar from property owner Carla Golden. Why was the gallery of shops a cash purchase instead of a mortgage?
That was a decision by the board to use cash versus paying interest to a mortgager.
Okay. And then last question from the webinar from property owner Carrie DeVillette. How many commercial appraisals of value did CSA receive regarding the value of the property purchased for the gallery?
I believe we had one.
Okay. Thank you.
No. Okay.
Why not?
That's, the board can make it available. They have, not made that available, so we can ask them. But it's, if it is a contract, which I don't believe it is, but the value establishment, I don't have anything. Well, we'll have to read it and make sure. Okay. Others? This gentleman here.
Richard Penfold. My wife is the owner of the property because when I was in business, I didn't own anything. So I'm speaking for her. I was just wondering, you said the lawyer did a review of everything to make sure the purchase was correct. Did it also take and give you an opinion as to whether or not it complied with all of the different restrictions in terms of our, what do you call our covenants?
Covenants.
Did they do that too?
Yes, there's no prohibitive covenant to purchase the property.
Well, that's good. In terms of looking at I'll probably let that go. Thank you. I'll send that in writing.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead, Mark.
It appears to me that there's, assuming we move past this discussion as to whether there were any of us board members who had conflict, there's some opposition, obviously, among our residents that we should not have acquired that site. I suggest that's because that opposition doesn't understand, allow me, what the motivation of the board and why the board felt that it was an appropriate purchase and how it is intended to be used. There's been an ongoing committee for months and months and months, and quite frankly, for years and years and years, to determine how we might improve the flow of traffic through our gates. That's the underlying motivation. That there is a plan that has been developed that we think is superior to the original plan that was designed and the basis for our original acquisition. And it is that new plan that we are asking public's consent to. That plan is currently, the complete site planning has been done. The roadway engineering concepts have been created with traffic engineers concepts. And we are now working with 2 architects to look at the options for the actual physical construction of a remote gate pass facility. And as to further, whether we could construct a building that had the ability to be expanded to a second level that would allow the CSA operations to relocate itself from its current location to out front beyond the gate, freeing up the current administration site that potentially at some point in the future could accommodate a community center that would seat more than 135 people, that we wouldn't have to rent space from Seapine Center to house, saving $100,000+ a year in expense in our own facility. So those are the general motivations, and it seems to me that as we are in the midst, I believe, David, the meeting with the architects is the 5th of April or thereabouts. We need to come back to this group. We own the site. We'll come back to this group and show you. Now, we have done this in the past, but show you once again what the plan is, how we expect it to work, and how it will benefit you. We were told several years ago that one of the most significant issues was our gate and the ease at which you all and your guests get into this community. In my opinion, this plan will fix that problem. No, those plans have been developed with a gate configuration committee that include quite a number of residents over a very long period of time. This was never done in secrecy.
Actually, your gate committees actually are composed of people that support your plan.
I am Dana, what I'm saying is I'm suggesting to this group, and I'm suggesting to Brett, that let's hold another discussion and let's show you what the plan is. That's all. Thanks.
Back to David. Let's get this gentleman, then to Sue, and then we're going to wrap up, and I'll stay.
Yeah.
And we'll keep the camera on for anybody on the webinar that wants to watch.
I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to second guess the decisions that they've made to purchase the property, and I'm not suggesting that there was any misfeasance, malfeasance, neglect, or whatever on the part of the board in its purchase. I do, however, want to keep coming back to the point that that CSA is in the nature of a governmental entity because it has the power to tax us, in effect. It can levy assessments on us, just as government can levy taxes upon us. And a governmental entity is subject to open meetings and open records law. And I know they exist in South Carolina because I've looked at them. So, and I know that CSA is not actually a governmental entity, but to me, in my mind, it's a quasi-governmental entity. And everything about it should be transparent. And I don't understand for the life of me why a policy has been developed which protects from the owners of CSA, of this community, the contracts or agreements. I cannot get my arms around the mentality that would think that they should be kept secret from us. And in saying that, I'm not suggesting that there's anything bad in it. But again, as I may have mentioned before, like Reagan, I'm a Democrat, but Reagan said one thing I agree with, trust but verify. And that's my speech. Thank you.
So,
my question is just for Mark. On this new plan, does it affect club course?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't believe it does. I mean, there was some debate early on with this configuration task force as to how it might impact the road coming out of Club Course and Ivy, and the current plan has no impact on that whatsoever. Russell's aware of that.
Yeah, not as part of that public's plan. So, ABDI, we're hoping to help, monitor that site better. Yeah, that's not. Okay. Standing here. So I'll stay around and happy to talk to anybody.